Hey, this is Chris Murdock. Welcome to the most recent version of Recruiting Connections. Today's guest is Dr. Doug Herr. Doug and I met through him coaching my wife. We paid Doug to tell my wife all the stuff I'd been telling her about how great she is. And then she finally heard it from Doug. And now my wife is a complete and total badass and is very comfortable with being a complete and total badass. So thanks, Doug. Please introduce yourself, and then we'll just jump right into why we're talking.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris. Yeah. I'm Doug Herr. I like to help leaders and right now also in particular salespeople, because I view sales as a really rough kind of leadership. And I help salespeople and leaders come from a place of integrity and authenticity as a way to really power their work and their lives, because I love seeing them enjoy their work more and get better results. And I want to have them impact all the people around them in the best way possible. I really believe integrity and authenticity are words we need to understand more deeply.
And those all play into why we're talking, because those help people make meaningful connections. And right. It is so valuable and it is so important to do that. But, we've talked about why connections are important in recruiting and networking on this and sourcing and technology, how connecting different and connecting information. But today I really want to dig into the actual reasons why connections are so important between humans and why we need them, why we crave them, and why if we don't have them, why it messes things up. And we can even talk about it in regards to the coaching and of the salespeople and the leaders that you're working with, because you're helping them understand who they are and why being who they are and being authentic helps them in making those connections.
Yeah, it's the biggest gift. When you ask why connections, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start or finish except for, I'll start with 2 Harvard studies. Okay. One is, as far as I know, and if I think as far as anyone knows, the longest running study in psychology. And it's a study on happiness. And what they found is that in the long term, the happiness that you have in your life is directly related to the relationships you have, the connections you have. So that, it starts, of course, with the family, but then there's also friendships. And more recent than that, Sean Achor I'm a total fan of his. He's a great guy, and he does wonderful work. And his latest book didn't get the publicity it should have because of complications in pregnancy that came early. So when he was supposed to be promoting his book on happiness, he was in the ICU he was in a NICU with his daughter. And I think she, almost died 3 times. So it was really important because most people think of happiness as this light, fluffy thing. And it's like, no, this is, he has practices and perspectives that really sustained him during one of the, most difficult things you can imagine. Well, and of course, right after that, they get out of the NICU and COVID hits. So no book tour for Sean. That's kind of the short story. But the book is called Big Potential. And what he did, just one of the studies he covers was his own. He studied Harvard students and said, well, what makes people successful? And every individual attribute that he could find, there was just no correlation. The only thing that mattered, guess what? Connections. Connections to other people. Now, I will also say that I am not talking about number of Facebook friends. Seriously, 0 correlation with social media, but actual connections with people in your life was the predictor of who is going to succeed out of all Harvard students. This has been replicated over and over again. Anywhere you go in culture and society, what makes us successful isn't our own specialness. And, survival of the fittest is kind of the business model we've been taught. It's garbage. And by the way, that's not really what Darwin was talking about in The Ascent of Man. He used that phrase once or twice, and he used the words love and I think it was love and connection or cooperation like 92 times.
That's fascinating.
So, yeah, it's a perversion to say that Darwinian thought is all about survival of the fittest. And we have all kinds of studies in different species that show it's about the cooperation. That's how we get the best results from our lives. At the same time, let's look at, why do people stay at a job? Mm-hmm. Well, they like the people they work with. There's a trust there, there's positivity there, resonance, so really connections are how we get everything done.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. You talk about like various companies that I've worked at. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I stayed in one situation and supported a group where I wasn't really connected. There wasn't collaboration. There wasn't. It was just an expectation that you figure it out and you get it done. Mm-hmm. I wasn't as satisfied in the role. In fact, I got promoted when I was told, start wearing a dress shirt. No more polos and with your slacks, wear a dress shirt and a tie. And I got promoted. Not even 6 months later, I was working at Yahoo, where I can wear my Yahoo backpack, and I carry my Yahoo laptop bag, and I'll have it anywhere in the world. And I've had people stop me and go, "When did you work at Yahoo?" Mm-hmm. And it's just that connection, that affinity that we had with the brand, with the company, with the leadership that we all worked under, and there was this giant family. And so when I started IQ Talent, one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that everyone felt connected and to each other. And when we've struggled, when there's someone that's struggling, they're feeling disconnected for whatever reason, you can tell, whether it's a personal issue, mm-hmm. or there's an issue with one of the clients not connecting with their client in the right ways. It is every single issue that has ever happened in this company comes through a lack of connection or poor connections and being made. And it's fascinating to see how that happens. And when we first figured that out, that's why we've created the mission statement that we have: be authentic. That's one of our values. And so authenticity, is, calling back to something you mentioned earlier, authenticity is one of the reasons why we are so successful. But right now we had to furlough a lot of people. I'm in the process of texting and calling everyone that's been affected. I did that during COVID when we had to do furloughs, because it's important for them to know that I am still thinking about them, and I'm going to take the time to connect and reach out and make sure that they understand that they matter, that I'm here for them, even if we don't have enough work.
Yeah. I think, that's where you take the connection to the level of you being a human being and seeing them first and foremost as people that you care about. And, that's so powerful. It's really meaningful in our lives to have that. Yeah, I think, so I'd love to riff on integrity and authenticity for just a moment. Mm-hmm. So let's look at first 3 basic human needs. We need to feel safe, right? And that's kind of at the level of physical safety, but also, emotional and mental safety, safe to feel our own feelings and think our own thoughts. We need to be connected. Part of, belonging is a word that's so powerful. When you feel like you belong, it sort of covers a multitude, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a safety there. Somebody's got my back emotionally. That belonging sort of covers everything. If I belong, this is the 3rd need, is I'm able to speak my mind without feeling like I'm going to end up, thrown out of the herd. And so but most people don't think about safety and connection and self-expression as biological needs. But we are linguistic beings. And those are absolutely biological needs. So when we talk about integrity, a lot of folks look at that through a moral lens, as though, I did the right thing or didn't do the right thing according to maybe a rule out there or an agreement I made. And I think that's fair and important, but it's also shallow. Integrity, in my way of thinking, is about being connected to your whole self. And because we have such complicated brains, and I know what it's like to get lost in the playground, right? We can think ourselves into all kinds of corners. And that overthinking is a big problem nowadays, more than ever, because we're less sure about how to, take a stand in who we are and be ourselves. I think people feel less safe just expressing things publicly. And that, that all matters because we need to have a sense of, I know who I am. That takes work and exploration. It actually takes connection, right? One thing I can do for somebody is have a different set of eyes than they have. I mean, it's just that we always have blind spots. We always don't know what we don't know, right? If you're looking one direction, there's a whole thing you can't see. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
And so we really do need each other. If we can connect and cooperate well, our perspective grows, right? Our sense of safety grows. Safety in numbers. It's really true. But that can open up all kinds of creative collaboration. If we don't feel safe with each other and we get in a boardroom, then the IQ of the room goes down and it's below any of the individuals. If we feel safely connected to each other, which basically is, there's this number 2.96, so it's basically 3-to-1 positive to negative interactions, facilitates that boardroom suddenly becoming creative and productive and taking off in a really big way.
Well, and in that, there's a McKinsey study that's out there. I think it was McKinsey that talked about, diversity also being a key factor in, creating, companies that are more collaborative and more creative. And I think if you've got an inclusive, diverse, company or group or board, whatever that, whether it's a micro or macro situation, if you have a diverse group of people and you're focused on being inclusive, that also helps with that safety. It helps people, it fosters more collaboration with different diverse points of view. And if people feel safe enough to be able to express themselves, that's when the real, innovation happens. That's when things can really start moving, because you don't have to worry about having to necessarily defend yourself or be defensive and be quiet.
It's really easy if everyone in the boardroom looks alike, in those demographic ways. It's really easy to go, well, if I say something really different, then I'm the weirdo, right? But if you have a diversity built in at that concrete level, right, then what happens is, and by concrete, it's not exactly concrete, but like gender isn't concrete, right? Orientation isn't concrete, but I think hopefully you can get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What happens is everyone expects a diversity of viewpoints, so it's more acceptable, and that's what gives you the real richness. If we can get together and only share our sameness, we're operating out of fear. And I think it's, when everybody looks the same, you can think, well, I don't want to be the weirdo, but it's like, you know what? I'm all about bringing out the weirdo. Everyone has a closet they need to come out of, and the more that we feel safe to express ourselves and connect and really bring our authentic contribution, you have to feel safe enough to do that. You have to feel that sense of belonging and connection. Yeah, it's powerful.
And on that, and this comes back to, again, let's come back to I'm going to focus in on the safety aspects, because in recruiting, a lot of times, we're trying to convince someone to leave a job that they're in. We are literally asking them to put themselves through one of the most stressful periods of time. Even if, there's like 5 stress: moving, getting married, there's all these different things,
moving is way up there.
Moving's crazy. That's why a lot of people tend to stay right where they are. But one of them is changing jobs. And so from a recruiter standpoint, I'm literally asking a complete stranger to trust me. That the opportunity that I am bringing to the table, the client, the role, is we have to figure out if it's good for them. And if it's good for them, then I can introduce them to the client, and then it's up to the two of them. I'm literally trying to make a connection with somebody within a matter of seconds.
Now I'm like, okay, let's turn the tables. How do you do that?
I have to make it about them. I can't say, I've got this great opportunity for you. Okay. I can't make that assumption.
Right.
I can say, I've got, I'm working with a client. Here's the opportunity. But first, I would love to learn, what kind of role would you be looking to take? What kind of role would prompt you to want to have a conversation with me? And if that response, whether it's over the phone or via email, it fits with what the client's looking for, I will mirror it back to them and say, the client is looking for exactly that. And this, we'll add on to it. If there isn't a match, I'll say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to bother you with this, but where the client's really looking for somebody that's done X, Y, Z, you've mentioned that you do A, B, C and want to do that. But that's when the candidates can either go, yep, not interested. Thanks for saving all that time that I didn't have to come onto a 30-minute phone screen to have a conversation and lose all that time only to find out your client's needs. But then other times I've had candidates say, yeah, that's exactly, actually, I want that experience. Is your client open to giving somebody an opportunity to do that? I have ABC. I want to do X, Y, Z. I'm ready to do X, Y, Z. And now I'm having a conversation that I'm trying to help this person level up in their career. So it has to start with the candidate. It has to start with them. Because Absolutely. if I'm otherwise I'm just a salesperson. Otherwise I'm just selling an opportunity. Can't be that.
Yeah, I think what you mean, Chris, is you're a salesperson who hasn't worked with me yet. Because I'm going to absolutely say in sales, it needs to be exactly what you're saying. The same thing.
Yeah. If it's I should do air quotes. Yeah, I should do air quotes. The traditional recruiter, the stereotypical recruiter, high pressure, high volume, doesn't really matter, throw spaghetti against the wall. No, I want to have meaningful conversations with you, find out if this is the right opportunity. If it's not, I'm going to tell you right up front. I am going to be honest. And if I make the assumption that it's not the right fit, I'm giving the candidate an opportunity to correct me. And more often than not, they're like, yep, nope, this is not the right opportunity for me, but call me about these types of roles in the future. And I do, I keep track of that. And I make sure that, when I'm recruiting, I'm remembering who they are, making sure that I'm only bringing relevant roles, because it's about relevancy as well when you're cold calling. And it's like, if it's not relevant, they're not going to ever respond to my emails, and possibly ever from the companies that I'm representing or my own. So
let me jump back, because what you're saying is so good. What you're looking for there isn't based on the best. It's based on the best fit. Mm-hmm. And this is a little bit of a rub with people who are maybe more anxiety based about diversity. Because what we just talked about earlier is so important. If you have a meeting with a bunch of people in it and they're more diverse, you're going to get a much richer work environment, right? But in the process of selecting everybody, it can be really easy for people to default unconsciously to, well, I'm most comfortable, the best fit is actually somebody who, isn't going to challenge my point of view. But then that person's not going to bring as much to the table that's really new and different too. So we really need to understand how to be comfortable with a bigger picture. I believe that growing our point of view can be very challenging for us.
Yeah, and the other part that's interesting right now, this Generation Z that's, just really, has been in the workforce a couple years now. They're really starting to have an impact on company cultures. Yeah. Companies are having to transition their cultures to fit the future needs of the employee base. And it's interesting. I was at a little conference, and somebody said, hey, we even lowered the number of hours to 55 hours, 55 hours a week. And we still can't get anybody to join the firm. Nobody wants to work. And I made the comment, nobody wants to work like you did when you were at this point in your career. You were putting in 80 hours. That's great. This generation does not, values happiness
Yeah.
the work-life balance. They want to be happy in their job. They want to be happy in their personal lives. And sometimes, we have to, sometimes they commingle.
Mhm.
That's a whole other conversation. But but I said, hey, lower the hour expectations to where they're not out there. They don't want to be paid for 80 hours worth of work. They want to be paid for 40 hours worth of work, not
Yeah.
55. They want to be paid for 40 hours of work. That's what they want to put in. They want to be able to do a great job with a great company, do great work for their clients. If there's in this situation, it would be
Okay.
clients, or they're the company's clients. But then they want to go home.
I want to put a frame on this, Chris, because what you're saying is so
Yeah.
great. I mean, it's good leadership. Okay. So what the first person does is, oh, these people don't want to work, right?
Yep.
Which is, okay, where are we? We are in the realm of judgment. Now we are squarely in the realm of, if there's a 3-to-1 positive to negative interactions, that's a negative one. And we've shut down all our creativity. So a lot of the work around integrity and authenticity starts with reducing inner judgment. Our judgments about ourselves keep us separated from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then if that judgment spills out to, oh, well, these people don't want to work. Well, wait a minute. What you did is you shifted. So you said, well, yeah, they don't want what you're offering. They do want to work. They want to work and enjoy their work and enjoy their life. What you did was not judgment, but discernment. And that is one of the most important transitions internally that you can have as a human being. I know that's like, it sounds like I'm overstating, but I promise I'm not. The neuroscience of this is really clear. When we move into judgment, we move into disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And disconnection doesn't serve anybody. So we really need to move to that place of connection based on, valuing the other person, even if we don't understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Being open-minded, like curious and empathic. One of the conversations I'm going to have soon here, it'll be over by the next time, or by the time this airs, is I had said something in a meeting about strategic empathy. And one of the guys called me and said, hey, I want to talk to you about that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that interesting? I thought I made it up, but evidently not. Anyway, empathy is the superpower that we really need to emphasize. And we don't really train people in that. But it's the basis for connection. Curiosity is intellectual openness and interest. Empathy is emotional openness and interest. I've heard people mistake empathy as a reason that, well, it's like if I care about the other person, then I have to do everything that's important to them, and I can't make my own decisions. It's like, no. We're just at the level of, if you care about the other person, then now you're starting a deeper and a real conversation. You can still care about and advocate for what you care about. Is this making sense?
Yeah. Well, you think about you said, we have, as a recruiter, and I'm going to put it in the context of recruiting.
Yeah.
The big thing for recruiters is you have to have some level of empathy to be a recruiter. And some people are really creepy, like myself. Like we can read people's minds. Like that's how empathetic we are. That's what I'm saying. It's like we can anticipate their needs before they know what they are sometimes. But then you have other people that they understand why empathy is important, and so they may be neurodiverse.
Right.
They may not be able, but they understand that empathy is important, and so they have to work at it a little differently. So you have that bucket over here, all the way to people that are mind readers. But we have to, as recruiters, we have so many people that we deal with. We have the candidates, and it could be dozens. We have the hiring manager. We have all the interviewers. We have our colleagues, the recruiters that we're working with, the other sourcers. So we have to be able to balance the needs of the company, the hiring manager, the candidates, our colleagues, my own needs.
Right.
And we have to be able to find that balance, and we have to do it in real time. We have to do it, every client engagement is very different. We have to switch gears. Every hiring manager is different. And so we have, there's, as an empathy is part of the recruiter and sorcerer toolbox. And if you don't have it, everything breaks down.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially important is, let me just put another lens on this. Empathy is your doorway to someone's emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Emotions are why people do things. Right?
Yes.
Just really simply, we do something because that's what we feel like doing. And that is based in some ways about how we think about it. How we think influences how we feel, sure. But we actually do stuff because of how we feel about it. And if you're not aware of that, then what in the world can you be doing, right? I mean, we actually stop ourselves from doing things using thinking.
Yeah.
Overthinking shuts down everything.
Yeah. Yep. And this is where, you start to get this. This is when stereotypes come in. This is when stereotypes start coming in. And so you think of this okay boomer, statement that some of these millennials and Gen Z, bring up. You've got these baby boomer generation people that have a different way of thinking, a different mindset. They want these Gen Z, the Gen X and the Gen Z, or the millennials and the Gen Z, to all think like them. And then Gen Xers, they're caught between the two worlds. And you just said the word feel. So when the younger millennials and the Gen Zs now they use the word feel a lot.
Oh,
they use the word feel a lot. And you were just saying that disconnection that happens, that judgment, the baby boomers go, oh, not another feeling, not all the feelings in the workplace. And then the Gen Xers are like, we understand. Let's talk about it. We may not understand it. We may not understand it fully, but because
they're like the middle child.
Yes. But the thing is, you think, we understand, we can navigate and translate what we're hearing from the generation that's now starting to retire. Right. And then we have these folks that are now growing up in a different time. There's more information. There's more transparency, and there's an expectation of transparency. There's an expectation of being understood. And if that's not happening, everything breaks down. And it's fascinating as a young Gen X or old millennial. I am caught in the middle of that. The two worlds, the feeling and the thinking. And it's fascinating. It's the tug, the push and pull, the tug.
Yeah, because the older generation definitely had ways of connecting, but they were so uncomfortable with even the word feelings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's ironic because they definitely feel things deeply. Mm-hmm. But the language now, and it's really similar in academia. Like before the year 2000, if you wanted to do work on emotions, it was a career ender, right? No one would, publish you. It was absolutely considered stupid to talk about feelings. And so, seriously, and the brain's like 95% habit at least. So all the folks who are older were raised in a time where it's like, feelings, don't be stupid, And, now we know that emotional intelligence, and it's on the rise. So several years ago, 73% of your success is about your emotional intelligence. Well, now it's up to 80. It's going to go higher.
Yeah.
Right. Because emotional adaptation to what's happening now, that's the most powerful kind of adaptive skill you have. And there's, I think, where we do understand Darwin. Like, it's really about what's most adaptive. Goodness of fit, being part of a team, connecting with folks. That's the real richness.
And I think that was a great way to wrap this up. For now, we are going to do another one. This is going to be a two-parter. I'll be reaching out to. There's more to go. Like I hope so, because I really enjoy connecting with you, Chris, and this has just been fun. I'm glad that after seeing your little minute videos on Facebook.
Oh, you're watching those? Oh gosh.
That's now you're blushing. For those of you just listening, he just turned beet red. No, that's one of the reasons why that prompted me to reach out, and that really touched me. It connected. One of them really connected, and that made me call. But then also because my daughter, she's feeling things that she doesn't understand, and she wasn't articulating that, and it turns out it was complete anxiety about starting school and all the newness and everything, and not wanting to grow up. And it just, everything clicked, and I needed to reach out. So I'm going to reach out. There will be a part 2.
Wonderful.
To this. So we'll schedule some more time. Well, Doug, how should everybody reach out to you? How should they connect with you?
My website is drdugherr.com, and it's HERR, and just DRDOUG, not doctor spelled out, just DR. And the same for my Gmail account, drdugherr@gmail.com. So yeah, happy to hear from folks.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Doug.